about some applications for the G.R.I.D. The G.R.I.D stands for Gradual Resistance Incremental Demand. And this is my quadrilateral frame that I've invented with the use of some TheraBands. And the concept here is to fixate the ends and pull from the middle. Now what this configuration allows us to do is a plethora of activities. I've got over 150 different exercises we can do, but in this case I'm going to talk about the applications for sports rehab, maybe Olympic level athletes, volleyball players of all levels, skiers of all levels. What this allows me to do in terms of rehab is bridge the gap between those elite movements and those early stage or early phase activities. So post-surgical, whether you have a torn meniscus or an arthroscopic clean out of that knee, and then you have that swelling response and you have to get that back. You want to try to get the range of motion, obviously, and then the traditional form of rehabilitation from a physical therapy perspective is to first reduce the swelling and the inflammation. Once the inflammation and swelling is down, then try to start getting range of motion. And once range of motion is back, start trying to get a little bit of the strength isometrically, meaning those contract, relax techniques without a lot of joint movement, and then start phasing in the joint movement and try to get that combination of movement and load, slowly build up the amount of forces you can do, and then ultimately, at the very end of all that, start going back to sport-specific activities. Now, in terms of volleyball or skiing, we've got these situations where we have to get down really low, those tucks, and that sustained high vibration, that plyometric-like force. So plyometrics, more or less, if we break down what plyometrics are, it's a fancy name for jumping type exercises. So there's a combination of lowering down, and as I'm slow motion squatting down, my muscles are contracting in the thigh, but they're also being lengthened or stretched as I'm loading, and then there's a moment of inertia and then that explosion back out. So the muscle goes from a eccentric to a concentric, or elongating to a contracting movement all at once. And so these high level activities are what the final stages of rehab are. So traditionally that would be the very last thing, because plyometrics in a way are an all or none type of activity, because I'm either doing that unloaded and doing this type of thing, or I'm going to have to lie down and unload my body weight, like on a total gym or on a leg press machine. The problem with those situations is that they're not really positionally specific for the athlete, because downhill skiers are on their feet. They're not laying on their back putting pressure. They're on their feet doing things. So what we're going to do with the G.R.I.D is introduce active assisted plyometrics. So up until this point, I have not seen that combination in any other rehab device, and so I'm going to introduce that with the G.R.I.D today. So what we're going to do is talk about that squat or that lunge position, that pivot and squat for volleyball players on rehab, or downhill skiers. Bobsledders have to run at full tilt. And as that sled pulls away, they have to jump back in. Skeleton is even more demanding because they're bent forward, running full tilt, and getting in position. So at those extremes, you can't quite prepare yourself with exercise unless you start doing task-specific activities. And in that intermediate limbo stage of rehab, there's a lack of that type of context. So what we're going to do is talk about the downhill skiers. So that tuck position, this is the position for skiing, so this is the position I want to train in. What's nice about the G.R.I.D is I have these different tensions of bands, thicker gauge down to thinner gauge, 7 in all here. I can, with enough arm strength, now again, Olympic athletes, for example, I'm not too worried about their arm strength, skiers as well, but good enough arm strength to kind of do a pull-up or to hang your weight onto the band. So now from here, as I squat down towards the floor, the band tension increases, which pulls my body weight off my legs and knees and puts it up onto the bands. So what I can do here is literally, I'm not even on the floor here, my feet are on the wall. So there's an example of very low demand in deep squat positions. So I can kind of introduce those positions with my feet on the ground and start re-educating those muscles without the all or none potential for trauma. So what I'm going to do here is get down in my ski tuck position and kind of bounce into that position, keeping my hands under my chin almost, kind of this position here as I'm squatting down, And now, as time goes on, I can kind of work in the range that I have. Maybe I only have 50% of the range. Well, I stay in that 50% and use the bands. Over time, I can go a little deeper. As I feel more confident, I drop some of the assistance of the bands. I drop one band. For every band I drop, there's that much more demand on my legs. I can stay down in that tough position. I can bounce through it. I can go over moguls, drop another band. Over time, we're doing a time-lapse progression here. Drop another band. Well, that's starting to feel that more in my own legs now. All the way down to single band, and then I can work my way down to the lowest of the low assistance. Barely have anything here, and then to no assistance. And now I'm in my own body weight. From there, I can go from a rehab or an inferior situation to now a more superior. Now I'm going to actually put more demand on myself. Now I can use the lower horizontals. And now I'm in my ski tuck position, and as time goes on, increase the load. Back down. Start working on my strength above and beyond the demands of the contest. Until I'm really at that Olympic level in my ski tuck position. Good stuff. Likewise with volleyball, I can kind of get down in these little pivot motions, like I'm lunging. And very little demand on my legs. I mean, I feel more of this in my arms than anything else. But I can go from assistance, various levels, all the way to resistance. And that's what's going to take me all through those stages of early phase rehab to elite training with the plyometric context. Only device I know that can do this is the G.R.I.D. So there it is. There's your unique application. Like every clinic, every gym, every Olympic training center could benefit from something like this. This is unique, it's eclectic, it's easy to use, I don't have to adjust anything. I have everything at my fingertips, just grab and go. So, there you go.